Hey, what's up everybody? It is Kellen here from Start Your Systems, and welcome to another MXGP3 official motocross video game career mode gameplay here on the channel. And we're going to start off with the MX2 career mode portion today. We already did the wildcard races, and we're on to next season, still sponsored by the beer company or whatever, so I think the bike did not change at all. I am not going to do full weekend yet, however, I am going to change the race options so that these guys are on realistic, just so that everybody realizes I am on pro difficulty. I don't have rewind on. I'm just doing the 2 races for 3 laps each. Some people I saw in the original video thought that I was not using realistic physics or anything like that, but I am. So yeah. All right, so I guess this video is going to be a little bit of me kind of ranting about the status of current MX video games, because obviously I did the career mode video last week and also the 125 two-stroke gameplay video last week. And as was kind of expected, overwhelmingly the reviews on this game from people watching it were bad. And I get it. I remember watching gameplay of this the first time I saw it and thinking, yikes, this doesn't look like it's going to be very promising or anything like that. And that's kind of all I can really say about my initial reactions. And it seems like the reaction from some people on this gameplay is much of the same of what I experienced, which is like, oh my god, I'm looking at something that looks terrible. And so I get it. Like, I get the initial jump instinct reaction, whatever you want to call it, about that. But there's a couple things that I kind of want to hit on that I feel like some of the comments I've read should be addressed for, at least. And I just want to explain that I get that this game is not perfect. It is not the best motocross game that could have been made. There are versions of games that probably have better physics and or decals or whatever than this game. But as a whole package, this game is a good game. Like, I know some people want to hate on it, and that's fine. Everybody's entitled to their own opinion, but what people should understand about where we are in motocross gaming is we had a period there from 2011 to right at the end of 2014 where no major game manufacturer was making a video game at all for motocross at all. There was MX Simulator was out, Reflex had still people pouring stuff into the community, MX Bikes was just about to come out, and then finally MX vs ATV Supercross, and then MX vs ATV Supercross Encore came, and that was all we had to start with. Then Milestone decided that they would announce they were coming into play. They were going to start the MXGP series. So now there's competition on the market, but there's still only 2 major game suppliers, which is Rainbow Studios and Milestone Italy, which produces the MXGP series and also the MotoGP game. So I think that the competition itself is good. Now, the reason that I'm kind of explaining that is there was nothing going on during that time to develop any game or anything like that. The MX vs ATV Supercross series is a rehash of Alive with updated physics and somewhat of updated graphics, with pretty much the downloadable content we were supposed to have with the Alive downloadable content, but Rainbow Studios went out of business, sort of, because of THQ going out of business, and then they couldn't produce a game, and then Nordic bought them, and then they could produce a game again, so they came back. However, from what I understand of that situation, THQ/Rainbow lost all of the game files that existed for Reflex. So Reflex is never coming back. It's a lost cause. Stop talking about it. It's over. It is a great game. It was a great game. It should still be played for several years to come, but we're not going to get those physics back in a video game, at least anytime soon. They might try to rework it if the demand is overwhelming, but I just don't see it happening. So let's squash that before it gets any farther. But as for the MXGP series, it was initially sort of a game called Mud, but that game sucked. And then they started developing the MXGP series, and the first game was pretty good, I thought, at least, like for an initial release title, and everything that goes with trying to make a motocross video game, which in my opinion is very, very hard to do. There are a lot of small intricacies to riding a dirt bike that a developer has to capture, and it's definitely not the easiest thing to do. I see a lot of people commenting all the time saying, why don't they just steal Sims physics or whatever and make it a little bit easier, but use these graphics engines along with Sims physics to make the ultimate motocross game. And like, in my opinion, I'm like, that'd be sweet, but I know how to play MX Simulator. There are a lot of people out there that pick up MX Simulator, play it for like 5 minutes, and think it's the worst thing they've ever played because it's really, really hard. So they'd have to do a lot of work to make it easier. And the reason that you see versions of video games that are like this, where it's like kind of unrealistically easy, is because they have to make it easy for the general consumer to play the game. So a person that's never ever seen what motocross is or knows anything about it and picks up this game, if you make it too hard for them to play, even on realistic physics or whatever, there will be no growing fan base of the game. Like, the reason that you have these games like Madden and 2K and MLB The Show and all this stuff getting much bigger is because none of those games are anything like what you would expect out of real life. And it's a video game, so you shouldn't. But in at least like MX Simulator's sense, there is some sort of real feel to it that you understand, and it seems as though real life riders that are good pick up that game a lot quicker, a la Jeremy Smith, Matt Burkeen, Aaron Plessinger. These guys all picked up MX Simulator and started playing it well quickly. So they understand real life riding. It transfers over to a video game a little bit better. That's not just going to be the case for an arcade type game. It's not like you have Steph Curry pick up NBA 2K and he is the best player in that game. Like, he would lose to several other people that have figured out weird ways to take great shots or something stupid like that, or things that are completely unrealistic about how to handle defenses and stuff like that. My point is that it's not realistic. And I see a lot of people comment that why can't we have something fun because it's not going to be realistic. And so something like MX vs. ATV Unleashed is brought up a lot. Reflex obviously also brought up a lot. And those games, while very fun, of course, are far from realistic. And I think that the motocross gaming developers are trying to go for a neat balance of it's fun to play, but it also is a lot more like real motocross. And Reflex is guilty of this as well, but really guilty of this is MX vs. ATV Unleashed. Everything about that game is they're way too big. The jumps are too big. The bikes have too much power. That's what's unrealistic about it. I get that the bike and the ragdoll effect and stuff like that in some of those games is great, and they should transfer over to games like this. They should develop stuff like that, but these guys are trying to tone the speeds down to be one-to-one scale. They're trying to tone down the playability of it so that it feels more like you're actually riding a real motorcycle in some sense, rather than some sort of rocket ship that can shoot to the moon and do triple backflip or something like that. So that's what they're trying to mimic, and that's the same thing for all these other sports-related video games, FIFA included, where they're trying to do something that looks realistic, even though in a video game it's never going to be real. Even with VR, you're not going to get something that feels identical to what happens in real life. So, I mean, I'm just trying to explain that while people think this game sucks and there's a lot of things bad with it, I agree. There are things that they could fix that could make it more realistic, and they could start with making air physics better, which they're trying to. In past games, it was all animated. You would lean to one direction and it would all just work itself out and come back from the whip no problem. In MX vs. ATV Supercross Encore, they've tried really hard to work on air physics, and they are coming around, but it's still got a long ways to go, as does this game. I understand that the whips look kind of stupid because they're basically just like a turn down whip every time. But at least in this game, you have to bring it back. You can't just leave it there and it'll just come back on its own and everybody's going to be peachy keen. Like, you have to bring it back and bring it back at the right time. And that's something that's very realistic about it. In real life, you don't just whip it out far to the left somewhere and then it just automatically corrects itself. Like, in real life, you actually have to use your legs, and your upper body has to come back to dead center, and you have to level the bike out underneath you and stuff like that. And they're trying, like, I just want you guys to understand that, like, they're trying, they're listening to what we're saying and the things that we want done. And if we keep complaining and saying, I'm not gonna buy that, whatever, that just gives them 1,000 times more incentive to be like, well, even the diehard fans of motocross don't want to play this game or support our series or whatever. So what do we care? Let's move on to something else. Like Milestone, for example, they have the MotoGP series. They can keep just going after that game and just developing games like that, and they're good to go. Rainbow, little different story because their main focus is the MXGP3 TV series, but they've also had other titles developed in the past, and I'm sure that if the community for motocross games dies down for whatever reason, or they just run them out of that specific genre, then these developers have no problem trying to find the money elsewhere. They love motocross and they're trying very hard to make a game that motocross fans will love, but also the general public will pick up and they'll make money on, because at the end of the day, that's what all these developers are in the gaming industry for, is to sell not only hundreds or thousands, but at some point millions of copies of a video game, so that they make really good returns on investment for the amount of time that they could put into a game, because it's all just built up to hours and hours of work and dedication over time for one release date. And if it flops flat on its face, then they look like a failure. Then they're the ones losing money and losing development, and the game's going downhill and people aren't buying it and all that stuff. So the fact that there's even people making games like this is a plus. Like, we shouldn't just be like shitting on them because they're making a video game. Like, we should be like, hey guys, thanks for actually coming around and doing something, because they very well could not be doing something. So I guess that's my point. Like, I saw a lot of people saying, like, are you high? Like, this game sucks balls. Why are you saying so many nice things about it or whatever? And I get it. Like, there are things that they could fix. There absolutely are things they could fix. And I'm going to point that out going through this series, that there are several things that I wish that they would fix in the next game. I did that in MXGP2, where I talked extensively about the things I thought they should fix, and in this game they tried to fix that. The collisions are better. You can actually make contact with other riders now and stuff like that. So I mean, stuff like that, I give them an A+ or whatever you want to call it for trying, because they're at least developing in the sense that they are making small improvements to make the game better over time. And it's going to be a process. It's not just like the first Madden ever released was the most realistic football game ever. And even now, it's still not the, like real life. It's not what real life football looks like, feels like, whatever. And I think it's going to be a while before we even see that in a motocross game, because like I mentioned, it is very hard to get a motocross game right. There are a lot of things you have to do to make sure that little nuances that you don't expect to matter actually look and feel correct in a motocross video game, such as grabbing the clutch and hitting the rear brake in midair to level out the bike's centrifugal force should level the bike out. But in most motocross games I've played, it doesn't do that. You hit the rear brake and then you have to push forward or do something like that to level it out. So like I said, it's a process. It's going to take time, and as long as they continue to develop, as long as they listen to us, which it seems like they're doing, and that's why I'm happy about it, then I don't have a problem with this game. There are things that should be fixed, and they will fix them. It's just going to take time. So hopefully that makes a little bit more sense. I know a lot of people think I'm probably an idiot for even saying I like this game, but I do. It's different. It's something new. It's something exciting. And realistically, if you play the motocross video games we were playing 12 to 15 years ago, they are dramatic improvements. The one thing that I wish they would do a little bit better is career mode. And as I get into that, I'm going to see how much more improved this game is in a career mode sense. But in previous iterations of this game, I felt like the career mode fell short, and we didn't do many videos in that career mode or whatever. So, we'll see how that goes as the game goes on. But that's why I'm doing these videos, and that's why I'm trying to, talk to you guys as a community of our channel. That you guys are a great community, and I love to hear everything you say, and I'm not disagreeing with some of your sentiments. I understand exactly where you're coming from with a lot of these things. But I also just felt like I should kind of air out my side of the story as to why I've said that I like this game and that I'm excited about it and excited to play it more, instead of just immediately, like shitting the bed on it and saying, it sucks. Like, we'll move on. Let's play something different. Because that's just, there's no progress there. That's not going to help anybody out. That's not going to help the developers out. And it's not really going to help me out either, because I like motocross video games, whether they're good or bad, and I will play them. That's just, I guess, how I look at things. But again, you guys are entitled to your own opinion, and you're entitled to develop those opinions however you see fit, and whatever you want to say about this game is, like I said, I'm not gonna say shut up, you guys are stupid, because the points that I've seen being made about this game are valid points. Like, they're not completely asinine or out of line or anything along those lines. So like I said, hopefully that makes sense. I'm going to keep playing the game, and hopefully you guys will keep watching it, and at least telling me what you do and don't like about it, because I'd love to know more specific details, rather than this game sucks balls, which is 50% of the comments roughly I saw. So yeah, I mean, I guess we'll see as the game goes on. I'm gonna keep playing though. How much is this suspension? This is 2,500 credits. Oh, I don't have it. All right, well, going on, not updating that, but I did update my gear so you guys can see I'm wearing that 7 stuff. I thought it looked pretty good. So we'll go into the next race and try it out. The first race that I did, by the way, since I rambled all the way over it, was Qatar, and it was at night, and I thought it looked pretty good. I think there was a little spots that were unrealistically dark, but there are also spots in the real life race at Qatar that they aren't really well lit, even though they have lights and you can see what they're doing and stuff like that. There's definitely some weird parts of the Qatar track that I think that they were trying to go after. So on to this Thailand track in Suphanburi. And I was told that this track is very interesting, especially when it rains, and it looks like the ground is already kind of wet. I'm not sure if that is the wet ground weather option or what, but it's interesting. I like that it looks like there's like some ruts and some wet ground and stuff like that. This track looks pretty cool. One thing I did see a lot of people complaining about is that you can't make your numbers or your name like customizably bigger or anything like that. You can change the font of your name, but for some reason I haven't been able to figure out where you can change the font for your number. I'm sure you can, but I'm gonna have to do some more searching. Either way, I do think that the numbers, like you guys have said, are too small on the back of the rider. So I know that's one thing that we'll probably emphasize to the creators of this game, and they'll try to fix. Whoops, over scrub there. But I have heard some murmurings, rumors, whatever you want to call them, about them updating things like that, where you can make the numbers bigger. I think right now you can only have 6 characters across your back for a last name, which I also think is kind of weird, because I don't think it was limited to that in the previous games, MXGP1 or MXGP2. So not too sure what the deal with that is. I think maybe they will update that. And also, like I said in the first gameplay video I did, I think I've heard about Supercross also coming along at some point. There's a whole giant question mark over 2018 motocross video games in general, because there's been a lot of rumors about pro riders getting 3D scanned for video games, and riders that would not be involved in the MXGP series in any way. I'm not sure if that's exactly going to elicit anything, but from what I understand, it's something to do with a game that is going to be called, or something along the lines of Supercross the Game 2018 or something like that. Now, I have no idea if that's an MXGP TV series or a Milestone series. I would think it's an MXGP TV series, since they have that relationship going on with Feld now, where they do the track maps, and they did the 16-round release DLC where you can play the Supercross tracks and stuff like that. So I would assume that's the case, but again, I'm not 100% sure on that. I have heard that it might actually be another upstart game that Milestone is trying to make that is similar to this, but Supercross instead of just motocross. No idea what's true about that or what's false, but it is kind of the hot rumor of motocross games of what's coming up, of whether it's going to be this series or that series, and really like what also is going to happen with MXGP TV. Like, we haven't heard anything about new stuff coming. They've had the DLC, but Supercross Encore is, I think, a 2-year-old game now, and with Milestone producing a game in this series every year, you would think that at some point Rainbow Studios would want to try to keep up with that sort of production. Not every year per se, but at least get a new game out at some point. And I know from talking to the creators of the MXGP TV series that they definitely have ambitions to continue growing the series, or at least, you know, doing more motocross games. I don't know if that means sooner or later or what, but we'll have to see. So one thing that I have noticed about this game that I don't like, just to again say that I'm not saying this game is perfect, there are things that should be fixed, is that it is a little bit too fast. You know, they tried to improve the pace of play with the game, make it a little bit more like you're actually going fast, like it feels like that. And I like that, but the lap times are already, in my opinion, getting ridiculous. Like, I don't remember the exact lap times for this track, but I don't believe they were in the 130s. And I already saw someone play Glen Helen, which absolutely was not in the 130s, and they were doing 130s. So, you know, they are trying to make it realistic, but at the same time, they overdid it with the speeds. The speeds are a little fast. That's one thing I'm sure that they'll work on fixing at some point, but at least maybe work on it going into the next game that they have, if they do have another game, which of course fingers crossed that they do. The pace of play is cool because it makes you feel like you're going fast, but it is, like I said, it's too fast. So, and then you know, just going back to the point of customization, there are a lot of different customization options, but you also are limited to pretty much only, or close to exclusively, the gear that was also available in MXGP2. A lot of the gear lines are using the exact same gear in this game, so they didn't update that. They added some new ones, like 7, for example, is a new company in the game. 6D Helmets is also in the game as well. And then a couple other European gear companies I saw. And there also are a couple more customization options on the bike side. However, it does suck a little bit that you can't really change your number font or anything like that. Like on this one, my number font is locked. I can't do anything, and again, it seems like I'm starting way behind the gate. Not sure what this is all about, but try to get a good start anyway. Tuck in here somewhere. See, this is an improvement aspect I see of it, at least in my eyes, is that in the other game, MXGP2, you made contact like I just did there with Sewer, and I would have been down on the ground, which, you know, maybe rightfully so. I hit him a little bit too hard there, but I also felt like it was kind of annoying because there would be times where I'd just be trying to actually race a guy and we'd make contact and I'd just get dragged to the ground and they wouldn't get affected at all. So they worked on the collisions. I like that. I'm excited to see how that works when it comes to online play, because, you know, before you could really ruin someone's day with contact in online racing, but now if you can actually make some decent contact with these guys, I'm sure that online you can probably also do the same. So we'll have to see. But I like it. I like that they improved that. I think that this game feels cool. Like I said, it probably looks really stupid and too fast, or like I'm making corners too fast or something. Like, I get that from a visual standpoint. Watching the gameplay, I can already tell that there are things that are glaringly wrong, of course. However, I think that for playing it, it feels kind of fun. Like, just with playing MX vs. ATV Unleashed, just with playing like Jeremy McGrath's Supercross 98, there are things that are weird about it, but it is fun to play. And in my opinion, I think that this game is fun to play. The last thing I think I want to hit on in this video specifically is sounds. I did that 125cc gameplay video. Had a lot of comments returned about the sounds suck, and the 125 sounds suck, and all that stuff. And supposedly the KTM 125 has much better sounds, and I guess I will have to figure that out on my own. But either way, like, I didn't feel like they sucked that bad. They didn't sound realistic necessarily. However, they did have range. The rev limiter was a little I didn't like that either, obviously. But I like that you would, shut the engine down, and going into a corner, it would have that kind of winding down sound. That sounded cool. The noise itself didn't sound that bad. I've heard way worse in a motocross video game with a 125 than that engine sounds. So, I mean, judge all you want. It's not perfect. It's not going to be perfect. No video game really is perfect. Otherwise, it would be staying around for a long time. Like, the only game that has a really good shelf life, because there's so many ways to mod it and there are so many good things you could do in it, is Half-Life 2. And that developed into, Gary's mod or Gmod or whatever you call it. So, but even that game's not perfect. Like, graphics wise, it's way, way, way behind, and everybody's still waiting for a Half-Life 3 and stuff like that. But it's why Call of Duty is always getting updated. It's why Battlefield's always getting updated. It's because nobody's developed the perfect game yet. Like, Grand Theft Auto 5 is one of those that they take a hell of a lot of time to develop. And they still have plans to rework it in the future, even though there's so many things that you can do in that game that it feels like it's a pretty damn good game. But like I said, no video game's perfect. The fact that someone's making motocross video games is a good thing to me, and I hope it's a good thing to you, and something that people can at least jump on board with at some point, to realize that, supporting companies like this is a good thing, and that we have motocross video games in the first place is a positive step. So again, I hope you guys enjoy these videos and enjoy listening to me talk. You can think I suck balls, that's fine. Tell me that in the comments, and tell me why, at least, so that I can respond and try to at least like defend myself, or try to get you to understand my point of view, because I get it. Like, every comment that I've seen, they're valid points, and most of the time they try to reason it with me, and I get that. So I just like to have conversations. It's all kind of bench racing at the end of the day. It's just a video game, so no one's life is depending on this. And I appreciate it, as always, that you guys maybe took the time to watch this video if you did. And if you guys like it, please like, comment, subscribe. And I look forward to seeing you guys in our future videos here on the channel.